Good morning to all the new subscribers and the subscribers that have been supporting me from the beginning. Thank you for joining this channel. We've gone past 3,000 subscribers, and those of you watching, please subscribe to the channel to get the latest news updates and the latest videos that I put out there. You can go to my playlist to actually see the different content that I cover, because in the news is only one of those. Please, if you go and click the bell icon, you will get notifications. Please spread and share these videos with your friends and family. We need to spread the word to be able to make the people of South Africa understand that we and our rights are under attack by our current government, and we need to stop this at all costs. Last night I put out a summary of the High Court judgment that declared invalid the level 3 and level 4 lockdown regulations. Now, this was a huge victory for democracy and for our rights as citizens, especially the Bill of Rights. And what I will be doing this morning is going through the judgment. Because the judgment is fairly long, I've decided to do it in segments because I don't actually want to miss out on any parts of the judgment in explaining it accurately to you. Now, this might require 4 or 5 different segments, so please follow them. If you are interested in your rights, then this judgment is extremely important because it also discusses some flaws in our governance system. And this is why I'm advocating to change the governance system, because how many other Trojans are sitting there just waiting to bite us like they are right now, where our Minister of Traditional Affairs actually has the right to do things on her own without, under these circumstances, the National Council of Provinces overseeing what she's doing, when that was the intention of the Constitution. So there are certain places where our laws have actually failed us and where it's not protecting our rights, and we would need many more legal cases like this to actually show the flaws in the system. And that's why, to me, it's just much easier for the people in Parliament, the MPs in Parliament, for the President, for the entire Cabinet to actually resign from their positions, and so that we demand and ask for a new system be put in place where we elect independent leaders, where we can hold them to account as independents. That would not mean that parties actually fall away. You can still support the parties can still exist, but there needs to be some form of system where independents are elected. And I would call on all political parties to start advocating for this, because if you are not, then you are part of the problem. I'm calling on all good people in political parties to start advocating for independent election of people. And if, for instance, a leader of a political party should be elected as the president, you can't be the president or the leader of a party and still be president of the country like we currently have. I mean, that makes absolutely no sense. You cannot split your functions and your obligations, because our ruling party, the ANC, has many times said that the ANC trumps even the Constitution, if you are a member. And I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous to make statements like that. And many of our current ministers have made statements like that in the past. But to get to the court case, I am going to try and explain things in quite a bit of detail and discuss why the judge made certain judgments, because there were more than just one specific thing attacked in this court case. And the people that brought this before the court, I want to make clear, because there's rumors going around on social media and some political parties are trying to get traction with this, saying that this judgment was brought, or the case was brought by the Democratic Alliance, which is absolutely false. This case was brought before the court, and it's in the matter between Reino David de Beer, he was the first applicant, Liberty Fighters Network, the second applicant, and the third applicant, which came in later, Hollebon Renaissance Foundation. And I can tell you at the end of the judgment that the first two applicants did not incur costs, but the last applicant did because they entered into the fray very, very late. And the respondents are the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, who is Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. Now, the nature of this application is quite important to understand, and that's why I want to cover the entire judgment. Okay, this is the judgment in an urgent application which came before me last week, Thursday, 28th of May 2020. So this application was very, very recent. 28th of May is around the corner. It was last week, Thursday. So it was an urgent application, and urgent applications have a different way of dealing with in a court, because a judge doesn't have that much time to actually make his decision. So this is important to understand. When you have a more drawn out court case, you can bring a lot more evidence, you can bring witnesses and various other things, but this was not the case here. In the application, the validity of the declaration of a national state of disaster by the respondent, being the Minister NDZ, I'll just call it at this stage, and the regulations promulgated by pursuant to the declaration are being attacked. So he's saying that the people taking the minister to court, that they're attacking the fact that she declared a state of disaster. So this was one thing. The attack is by Mr. De Beer in person and by a voluntary community association known as the Liberty Fighters Network. Another non-profit organization, the Hollabon Renaissance Foundation, which also styles itself as the African Empowerment, has been allowed to address the court as an amicus curiae, a friend of the court. Okay, introduction. As will appear herein later, the constitutionality of the regulations currently imposed on South Africa and its citizens and inhabitants in terms of Section 27 of the DMA, which is a Disaster Management Act, referred to as the lockdown regulation or the COVID-19 regulations, hereinafter simply referred to as the regulations, is central to this application. I therefore deem it apposite to commence this judgment with the following quotations. So this is where the judge is now telling everyone where his mind is in this judgment. Okay? And here in paragraph 2.1, the judge said the exercise of public power must comply with the Constitution. As I've mentioned many times before, that the Constitution cannot be suspended in any of the actions that our government has taken, especially under the DMA, which is the Disaster Management Act. And I quote, the exercise of public power must comply with the Constitution, which is the supreme law and the doctrine of legality. What that means is like in religion, the Quran or the Bible is where the doctrine of those two religions actually come from. The Constitution is a doctrine used for writing our laws. So all our laws need to comply with the Constitution. And many of the laws that we currently have do not comply with the Constitution. In this case, will actually make one such a situation very clear with regards to the powers of the Minister Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma in this case. Okay? So, the Constitution is the supreme law of the country, and it's the doctrine of legality, which is part of that law. The doctrine of legality, which is an incident of the rule of law, is one of the constitutional controls through which the exercise of public power is regulated by the Constitution. So we have certain powers as the public, and our government obviously don't understand this at all, because these people that are in government currently, they are control freaks. They want to control us. This is clear through their actions, and the judge actually makes this clear later on. And I want you to remember that when President Cyril Ramaphosa announced this lockdown, that he had all the other political parties standing beside him. So this is not an ANC blame game. The EFF, DA, COPE, ACDP, they were all standing there good, all of them. I might not be mentioning all of them now, Al-Jamar, I mean there's various others, but these people all supported him. They stood behind him. When he extended the lockdown, those same people stood by him again. The Freedom Front Plus, and I think there's a new party from the Eastern Cape, just so that I don't forget anyone. But these people all stood by Cyril Ramaphosa with the initial lockdown and with the extension of the lockdown, okay? And they supported him, which means that they are all guilty of not protecting our rights, that they don't understand our rights. Otherwise, they would have spoken out. They would have said, what are you doing? This specific judgment did not look at level 5 of the lockdown, and this will become clear later, because the level 5 was not in force at that stage, so the judge couldn't judge on that, and this will become clear. I carry on. It entails that both the legislature and the executive are constrained by the principle that they may exercise no power and perform no function beyond that conferred upon them by law. So it says that our executive and even the judiciary and the legislature, the judiciary decides on this. The legislature, which is parliament, the people making laws, they may not exercise any power or perform any function that's unconstitutional. So they're constrained by this principle that we, the public, actually have powers under the Constitution. In this sense, the Constitution entrenches the principle of legality and provides the foundation for the control of public power. So, the Constitution looks at what you are allowed to do to control the public. Okay? And a court can judge on whether the legislature, which is parliament, or the executive, which is the presidency and the cabinet, whether the laws or the regulations that come up, whether it is actually constitutional. So there's nothing that you cannot challenge in court. Don't ever assume that any law is constitutional until it's been tested against the Constitution. How many of you have actually read the Constitution or tried to understand it? Some of you feel that it's maybe too much legal jargon and you don't understand it. But it's your public duty to study that document and understand your rights so that you can bring it before a court if necessary, like these people have. These weren't political parties or anyone with high power and might or lots of money or anything like that. And they brought this before the court and they were successful in one of their applications. When deciding a constitutional matter within its power, a court, this is what the court is allowed to do now. A, must declare that any law or conduct that is inconsistent with the Constitution is invalid to the extent of its inconsistency. Okay? So they can actually declare, this High Court can declare something invalid. The court cannot declare what you must do. It's not their role. They can just say if it doesn't follow the Constitution, if it's inconsistent, they can declare it invalid and to what extent it's invalid. So they can say that it's gross negligence or completely invalid or slightly invalid. They can actually say to what extent that is, to guide the legislature to come up with something that is valid, or the executive, who is the ministers in the cabinet, to come up with something that is more valid. The court needs to give that kind of guidance. B, may make any order that is just and equitable. Okay, this is the court. May now make any order that is just and equitable, including 1. An order limiting the retrospective effect of the declaration of invalidity. So the judge can make an order to stop or limit this effect that is being created. And 2, an order suspending the declaration of invalidity for any period and on my conditions to allow the competent authority to correct the defect. Okay, so the judge is allowed to hear, he says, suspend the declaration of invalidity because he has declared the regulations, the lockdown regulations 3 and 4 invalid. But he suspended that for a period of 2 weeks to give the authors of those regulations time to fix the problem. And the reason why the courts do this is to try and maintain law and order. They want to stop public uprisings and civil unrest and many other things that a court would deem a problem for the Constitution or the rule of law, that would also put people's lives at risk. And because of this, a suspension was given in this case, and a lot of people might be frustrated by this, but he needs to look, as a judge, he needs to look at the Constitution and make decisions based on the Constitution and the law. He cannot infer his own mind or his own wishes with regards to this. Then, if we go to paragraph 2.3, it reads, and I'm going to end this video here because this basically gives the premise or the start or the attack for this court case. The essential humanity of man can be protected and preserved only where the government must answer. And this is such an important point for all the subscribers to understand. And once again, please subscribe to my channel. Click the bell icon for notifications. You can find the subscribe button on the bottom right hand corner of this video right now. All of my videos, click on that and you'll be subscribed. It doesn't cost anything. Those of you that have subscribed, make sure that you remain subscribed when you come to my videos, because some people have claimed that their subscriptions were gone for whatever reason. It could have just been a mistake. But please subscribe so you can watch the follow-up videos where I go through the rest of the judgment in detail with you. So, very important that the essential humanity of man can be protected and preserved only where the government must answer. So they have to be held accountable. They must answer for their actions. And within the current system, that does not happen effectively. And all of you have seen the jokes within Parliament with regards to our presidents answering to the MPs in Parliament. It's an absolute farce, and that's why we need to change the system. Not just to the wealthy, not just to those of a particular religion, not just to those of a particular race, but to all of the people. So here, what the judge is saying is that the executive, because of humanity and the nature of man, that they need to be protected, and government must answer not just to the wealthy, not just to those of a particular religion or race, but to all of the people. Anyone, someone that is homeless, sleeping on the street, should be able to take government to court and hold them account. And this is how it should work. And if people don't understand that basic fundamental part of society, then we have no chance of fixing this country. Because I am discussing basic premises that you need to understand. So if you have an elitist mentality with regards to your status in life, you need to drop that if you want to help this country. Because if you don't, very soon we won't have a country to live in. But if this movement takes off, that I am driving to change our governance system where we elect independent people, because it's easier to get rid of an independent person than it is to get rid of a party. In fact, it's impossible to get rid of most parties. Like the ruling party currently, they said they will govern until Jesus comes. Now, how on earth do you get rid of a gang of people if they are governing somewhere and the people are all bent on voting for the same party? How you do that is you elect individuals. You change the system. And our constitution allows for the election of individuals. But the IEC has not built that into the IEC rules. And the Constitutional Court has declared that invalid and gave the IEC 2 years to come up with a proper system and change the rules. And their answer was, well, just start your own political party again. They are hell-bent on the party system because it protects gangsters in its place, and it protects the overseas people that are controlling our country, the elitists and the Illuminati, the people that believe that they are enlightened and we are not, to govern our government and govern us indirectly, like the World Health Organization is doing at this stage. And even a government by the consent of the governed, as in our constitution, must be limited in its power to act against its people, so that there may be no interference with the right to worship, but also no interference with the security of the home, no arbitrary imposition of fines or penalties on an ordinary citizen by officials high or low, no restriction on the freedom of men to seek education or to seek work opportunity of any kind, so that each man may become all that he is capable of becoming. This is such an important paragraph. And I really want you people to go and read this yourself when you have time. Thank you for listening to the first part. Be ready to follow on with part 2.